Now we move on to another parable, the parable of the vineyard, or as it's sometimes called, the parable of the vine dressers. Now if you look at a vineyard, and I must emphasize, in order to understand the parables, understand the kingdom of heaven, you'll have to understand the parable in detail. For the parables have very powerful principles in them. So to create a vineyard, you must have a piece of land, and the householder who planted the vineyard, he planted it with trees of grapes, and in the center he dug out what is called a wine press, and this wine press contains a machinery that squeezes out the juice from the grapes. Then he has workers who store the juice from the grapes in barrels in a warehouse. Then he has workers who go and blend the aging juice from it and put yeast in it so that it will ferment and form alcohol. Then he has another section in the wine press area that bottles the wine, blends them and bottle them, label them, cork them, and finally put them in cartons and seal them and then ship them out of the vineyard. Now also in all vineyards they're supposed to have a tower, and at the top of this tower you have a husbandman who is overlooking or managing the vineyard for the owner or the householder. Now points to remember is you must need a piece of land, you have a hedge protecting the establishment, you have workers in it who planted the vineyard, you have a wine press with a warehouse, a blending section, a bottling section, a labeling section, and a corking section, and finally a packaging section, and then you ship out the product from the vineyard. Now of course you have to highlight the manager or the husbandman who is looking after the king's or householder's vineyard. So the householder is responsible for developing this vineyard, and then appoints a manager to look after the workers and the production. So how is this similar to the kingdom of heaven within man? Now in the vineyard you have a hedge, so too in man you have a hedge in the form of the physical body. Within the hedge you have the entire plant and parts and functioning of the vineyard. Likewise, in the kingdom of heaven, within man, you have all the parts of this kingdom of heaven. So the similarity is there. Now the plants that were planted in the heart of the kingdom of heaven within man is the word of God. Good. And that corresponds to the plants in the vineyard, the physical vineyard. Then God dig out a wine press, and in the physical vineyard and the spiritual vineyard you have the wine press in the form of your subconscious mind or your soul and the divine mind combining together to form the heart of the mind. And the same functions that go on in the parable are duplicated in the kingdom of heaven within man. So, but remember, it is spiritual substance we're dealing with. Then, the workers in the kingdom of heaven are really the thoughts of the different parts of the kingdom of heaven. Good. Now, although you have parts in the vineyard, there's only one vineyard. Likewise, although you have parts in the kingdom of heaven, it's only one kingdom of heaven. And finally, you have the husbandman who is managing the kingdom of heaven for God. And then these fruits from the thoughts that are planted in the kingdom of heaven are reaped and processed and stored in the center of your mind, the winepress, which is the soul and the divine mind, forming the heart of the kingdom of heaven. And the heart manifests these thoughts, beliefs, or fears, convictions, and passions into finished products, which would be situations in your life, events, situations, circumstances in your life, and conditions, relationships and things, house, land, money, property. So whatever is processed in the kingdom of heaven is shipped out into your body and into your life. Just as in the vineyard, whatever is produced is stored as a finished product and is finally shipped out of the vineyard. It does not stay in the vineyard. So what this is telling us, the same principles that obtain in the kingdom of heaven are the same principles that are obtained in the earthly parable. Now, the earthly parable is very similar as well, in that when there is the harvest time, God or the householder sends his messengers to collect the fruits from the manager, but he doesn't get any. They are buffed and sent away. He sends a second set and they kill the managers, the husbandmen, kill the messengers. And then God sends his son to collect his fruits, and he gets none, for they killed his son too. And finally, God will come himself, and he will deal with the wicked husbandman who is selfish, greedy, and own way. He will remove this wicked husbandman and replace him with a good husbandman who will now realize that he has to give the fruits to God. Likewise, in the kingdom of heaven within man, the husbandman has gotten selfish, greedy, and own way. So he now, this husbandman, in the conscious mind, is using the kingdom of heaven that he was supposed to manage for God. He is using it to produce fruits and finished products for himself, like house, land, money, jewelry, property, fame, fortune, academics, and what have you. And he's also creating situations, relationships, and things for himself. So the husbandman in the vineyard is similar to the husbandman in the parable. And that is how I was told to explain the parable of the vineyard.